I'm Andrew Kopchitz, the founder and CEO of RedBalloon.work, and I'm here with Donald Trump Jr. And as you know, Red Balloon is connecting value-aligned job seekers with awesome employers that want to hire them.
That's why I'm so excited about Red Balloon. A lot of big companies are pushing woke ideology in the workplace, and conservatives are being silenced and even removed. But Red Balloon is helping people find good jobs with companies who won't cancel them for their beliefs.
It's really, really important, and literally every single day, we're receiving resumes from job seekers who are told that they either need to compromise their values and their faith if they want to try and keep their job, and that's just wrong.
Guys, I'm sure you've seen it all yourselves already, and the big job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter are actually promoting woke workplace policies. They're a huge part of the problem.
And good companies are desperate for people who actually want to show up and work and build their careers without all this nonsense. And a lot of them say that they would rather be understaffed than poorly staffed.
That's why if you're an employer who's tired of all the virtual signaling, you need to post your jobs on Red Balloon. Not only will you find good people who align with your values, but you'll also be supporting Red Balloon's mission, which is so critical for America's future.
I'm Andrew Kopchitz from RedBalloon.work, and this is Donald Trump Jr., as you know. And if you're looking to fill your open jobs with values-aligned talent, then post your jobs on RedBalloon.work today.
We'll see you there.
Got to turn up the audio.
Did you hit record?
I did.
Oh, good.
The red button. Hey, y'all. Welcome to CrossPolitic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. As you can see, Chalk Knox is still gone.
AWOL.
Still gone. We don't got enough club members yet, apparently, to ship him back from Arizona. Pastor Toby, I'm the water boy. We also got Jennifer and Brett on the show. We'll introduce them here in a minute. But thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Good to be with you.
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody. Hope you had a great Easter.
Yeah.
I'm still.
He is risen.
I'm still waking up.
Yeah.
From our Easter festivities. It went all day.
Did you?
We have a freshman in college, and we said we can invite some friends, and he invited friends.
Oh, man.
And college kids, they don't know when
to go home.
To go.
No,
I mean.
And you wanted him there.
To his credit, he asked Dad, "Can we do a little bonfire at 8?" And I said, "Sure." And then they came and they stayed for a long time. You know, way past my bedtime.
Yeah,
which was like 8.
This weekend, I know no one cares about this story, but I've got new chickens coming, by the way.
Oh, no.
So, long story short, all my chickens died this winter except for one, and we ended up naming it Katniss because it made it through the coyotes or whatever. Hunger Games. Katniss was the lady that, yeah.
I should know that.
Yeah.
And anyways, on Saturday, I got about 10 acres, just hardly anything, little boutique ranch. And there was this sprayer. I need to take care of my pasture because you get thistles, they'll grow up and all that stuff. And I found this sprayer on Facebook, and I was like, that's perfect size. I need it. Sent my nephew down to this farmer down in Cottonwood.
Yeah.
And I called the farmer on his way down, just to get some details and everything. He didn't have very good wireless connection, so I couldn't ask him all the questions.
Right.
And my nephew comes back with like this full size, like farm tractor grade sprayer.
Yeah.
And on the Facebook picture, it wasn't very big. It looked like my riding lawnmower could pull it. And that's what I was pretty excited. And apparently, so Andrew, if you need a sprayer that will spray, 40 acres of your thistles and everything.
Yeah.
I got it. I was like, how am I going to use that? I don't got anything. So anyways, pretty funny.
Wow, we're really sympathizing with all your...
I know. My chickens and my sprayer problems at my house. So,
okay, I've got a couple ads here I'm supposed to read.
Okay. This
is a different one. Trinity Reformed Church is a CREC mission. Is that what I'm supposed to read?
Yeah, we love. Yeah. We love doing new church plugs. We get people that call us and say, "Hey, plug our church."
Ad. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a new church in Noonan,
Georgia.
Noonan, Georgia. We're under the oversight of Planting Church, Trinity Reformed Church in Huntsville, Alabama. Oh, those are
that's Larson.
Yeah, they meet at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays at Arnold Middle School for worship. Their mission: all of Christ for all of life for all of Noonan. To get in touch, people can email info@trinityreformedga.com. You can also follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Trinity Reformed GA, or visit their website, trinityreformedga.com.
That's GA as in Georgia.
Right. Thank you.
Just in case.
Thank you, Gabe.
I needed that.
Hey, this is Jennifer Say. This is your second time on our show. That's really brave of you.
Well, apparently she already went through the gauntlet before. And
I mean, usually after one Zoom call, people, it's enough. But
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Clearly, no. Thank you very much for coming back. Jennifer's a mother of 4, author of Levi's Unbuttoned and Chalked Up. New York Times said that Jennifer was a candidate to lead Levi's. Then she started tweeting.
Shame on you. Shame on you, Jennifer.
That's a brief synopsis. There's more to it.
Right, there is. Yeah. And we actually talked through your whole story when we had you on before. So folks, check out, go back to the archives and check that show out. It was a really helpful conversation. We also have Brett Craig. Brett, it says here, I'm just reading what it says. Follower of Christ, CCO, big studio group. What's a CCO?
Chief Creative Officer.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I'm a pastor.
I was going to say Chief Classic Officer. I like that. That's what,
Yes.
Total classic, man.
I'm sorry. But in your past life, you were also a Chief Creative Officer.
Correct.
For Deutsch?
Yeah, Deutsch. So I don't know
LA,
if you
an EVP, creative.
Donnie Deutsch, you know that guy from NBC?
No.
His dad ran an agency called
Deutsch.
Oh.
That's the agency.
Ad agency.
Yeah.
They were a big deal.
Okay. And also you're doing work for Daily Wire.
I did do.
Okay.
For 6 months.
Past life.
Yep.
Okay.
Helped them build a brand agency, help them do their advertising.
Yeah. Nice. Very good.
And both of y'all, so we came across Jennifer because she was unemployable. And then we came across Brett because you're unemployable. Actually, I want to start with we've
That's
talked to
why
Jennifer.
we're friends.
Just unemployable together. Yeah, this is the new world.
Is that like contagious? I mean, are we going to be? I mean,
it's a COVID thing.
So, yeah, maybe. I think his is non-COVID related. But
oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You are unemployable. Yeah. Jennifer's unemployable because of her COVID tweeting.
Yeah.
And Brett's unemployable because of BLM stuff.
That's right.
So what happened?
So in the height of the racial tensions of 2020, somebody dug up a 5-year-old casting email in which I was trying to give instructions about who to cast. It happened to be 2 black voice talents, and I was trying to explain who I would go with to my creatives. And someone took that, put it on Instagram, and pulled words out and problematized it right in the height of those tensions.
Right.
And then you look at me and I'm like, well, I'm kind of a perfect avatar for like a white male heteronormative Christian. We can't get to Derek Chauvin, but we can get to you. It's kind of what I thought.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think I knew that was what was happening, but I think looking back, that's kind of what happened. It was just you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and as a company, we need to get away from it.
So wait. So just for the record, I mean, what did you actually say? What was the instructions you were giving?
So nuanced. But I said this person I believe is too AA, too urban. Which, just so you understand the brand, it would be like for NASCAR picking Snoop Dogg. It's not that Snoop.
Everybody picks Snoop Dogg.
Right,
now.
everybody does.
Right.
Or Snoop Dogg for the PGA. So I was just trying to say to my
you're saying there's certain things that match better than others.
That's all I was doing, and the creatives had all the context. And what nobody knows is that it was 9 threads deep, the email.
Well, also now it would be considered appropriation to use it. Like you would have been right. It was then.
So
I know.
my feeling at the time is we are culturally appropriate. We are appropriating.
Right.
This is a very white brand. Not that I should care about that, but it was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say their name, just to kind of. But
yeah.
The whitest office you've ever seen, big brand. And it started with the client saying to me, "We need someone less white." Nobody understood that. So the reason I was talking in a racial manner is because it was put in a racial context.
You're hired to do that.
Well, my first casting job in my life was a black producer looking at kids auditioning for Mattel. These little girls, and it was the cruelest comments you could ever imagine about these little girls through the window.
Yeah.
But I learned a lesson that day. It's like, oh, these girls are going to represent Mattel.
Right.
She's doing her job. They can't hear us. We're having to have a conversation about who represents the brand well.
Right.
And that was what I was doing, and I wanted my creatives to understand why I was choosing what I was choosing.
Right. And it's not like no one else in the world ever considers these things.
Well, I will just also say, too, it was an internal email.
It's 5 years old.
5 years old. And the person, I don't even think the person wanted to take me out. I think they wanted to do damage against the agency.
I see. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be the guy
Right.
that was on the email. And I didn't even, by the way, I didn't even know I wrote it because it was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, you had no idea.
Oh, so when I'm opening it and looking at it, I remember it felt like the walls of the room were closing in on me because I'm like, are those my words? Because I'm thinking about what just happened in the news and I'm going, I'm in deep trouble.
So that got to the news. That little Instagram
I
post.
remember it.
Yeah, you said
I
lots of
remember.
people in the industry. And next thing you know, well, so where it was posted was under the black square for our company that everybody obligatorily kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Then the conversation ensues, and that conversation.
So
spins-
someone internally from your company found it and posted
former
it.
freelance producer posted it.
Right.
And then the mob came, high-fiving her for being brave.
Right.
And then I'm just
Stunning
sitting there.
and brave.
Stunning and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Always.
And, so,
Always.
and then that thing spins up, and you've got a holding company with 50,000 employees is thinking like, the best way to get out of this is not to,
Just to let you go.
and then I should not keep talking because Jen needs to talk and other people need to talk. But yeah, it was basically that. Yeah, it's the easiest thing is to let to move on.
Right.
I want to just add that I am pretty certain that my former company, Levi's, has spent the last year trying to find an email or something I did.
Right.
Right? To
Right.
just
To do
say,
the
like,
same
see,
play.
this is the person she
Right.
actually is.
Right.
And I was there 23 years.
Right.
There's a lot of emails.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I'm just saying I know.
You're just saying you're better at emails.
No,
That's it. She's like, I'm awesome at emailing.
You know,
Right,
I was
yeah,
always
right.
very careful.
Yeah.
And even as I go back and, the brief version for the people that don't want to go back and listen is mine went on longer. Like Brett's happened and ended quickly. Mine was a 2-year conflict in the company. I was saying schools should open. They were saying, you got to stop talking about this.
Right.
I was tweeting about it, but I was doing other things too. I led rallies in the city. I wrote op-eds, I went to school board meetings.
Right.
To reduce it to just tweeting is
Yeah.
a little inaccurate.
Yeah.
But when I wrote my book, which just came out a couple months ago, I went back over all my tweets from the full 2 years of it happening. And some of them are in the book, but I kept thinking I'll find something that's because I was angry.
Yeah.
It doesn't come through. I was very appropriate. And as I went back through, I'm like, how did this ever make anybody
20 years
so
of
angry?
discipline. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 20
Yeah.
years of discipline and training a diplomatic voice
Right.
that you use
But
in
now,
a company.
But now you're
I
out.
need some of that training. Some of that diplomatic.
You don't. I don't know that it would work. I don't know that it work. I mean,
Just to add on to that, though, that's what I was going to say is I asked for a fact pattern.
What's that? What's fact pattern?
Well, if this is who you say I am,
Yeah.
Oh,
show
okay.
me
Oh,
other
yeah.
examples.
right. There should be other examples of this kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
Over and over. The other thing I can just say, I had never been reprimanded or sat down in HR once in my entire career.
Right.
Never once had a woman ever said, you made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Or a minority feel,
Right.
the way you talked to me in that meeting. In fact, I had the opposite reputation.
Right.
So the whole thing, I got so many calls from people behind the scenes, and it's like Jennifer knows this too. I can't believe this happened to you.
Right.
It's wrong. I know who you are, but no one will say anything
Yeah.
in your defense.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
Pathetic.
Yeah. So, why? Why do we live in a culture where people won't? They'll write you privately. I know about this as a pastor. So it's the same thing. We've had various controversies, and I've been a lightning rod at a few different points, completely different worlds. But I get people to write me privately and say, "Good job, really appreciate how you're standing up."
But I'm not going to stand with you.
And that's
I'll tell you why, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of time to think about this as an unemployed.
Because you're still employed. Yeah.
I actually don't think it's unique to our culture or
Okay.
our time period or our geography or any of it. I think
Okay.
across time, most people would rather stand with the group than stand up and be right.
yeah.
They just would. Look at all the atrocities that have happened in human history. I mean, I don't want to.
Right.
It's always true. People
Right.
would rather sort of cloak themselves in virtue, even if it's false virtue, and stand with the group than deal with being ostracized or called a name. They'll join you once there's enough more people
Right.
having joined you, and
Right.
then they'll pretend they always fought with you. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I was I was the first to speak out about the abuse in gymnastics, which is now very well known,
Right.
because of the Dr. Larry Nassar, who was the team doctor for USA Gymnastics. He sexually abused over 500 young athletes. He's in prison for life. That happened. He went to prison in 2018. I wrote my book, which came out in 2008. And I was pilloried. I mean, everyone knew this stuff was going on. Everyone. And I sort of joke now, like, I thought it was an open secret. I didn't realize it was a secret.
Yeah.
But I was dragged across the internet. My name was dragged through the mud as a liar and a grifter who just, was a failed loser ex-gymnast that was seeking some sort of revenge at 41, like 25 years after I left.
Misspent youth, got to make up for time.
And, when the Nassar story broke, even at first, people came after the women in the way that they do. I mean, it was crazy. And then eventually, everybody said, Jen Say was first. We always stood with her. And I was like, I got the screenshots.
Yeah.
They'll pretend, and I think they actually believe it.
Right.
I think they actually convince themselves.
And maybe some of these people were sympathetic but weren't willing to stand up.
I don't even think they were.
Okay.
I don't. I think their brains are so foggy, and everybody thinks of themselves as the hero in every story. Everybody wants to believe they would always do the right thing.
Right.
Everybody believes they wouldn't have gone along with the Nazis, or they wouldn't have had slaves in America, right? Like everyone believes that about themselves, and it's not true.
Well, and here's a less charitable explanation. Okay. Not only will they be, and I just think I thought about this. Not only will they be silent, what I've discovered is very good friends, people I've mentored, will actually, it's to their advantage to shout you down, to pick up a digital stone on LinkedIn. Yeah. They gain and actually go further in their career by being part of the mob.
Right.
And I know that's true.
There's incentives there.
There's an incentive. So it's like, not only do I need to be quiet, but if I step on your face digitally, I actually can get promoted. The other thing I need to do is I need to separate from you.
Yeah.
In other words, there's a spell that's been cast around you.
Yep.
Right. And that's what this does. Mm-hmm. And you're known as my mentor or mentee or whatever you call that. And I can't be known as your friend. Yeah. So I need to publicly pick up a rock.
Disassociate and all that stuff.
Me and Jennifer have talked about it. It's one of the most painful parts of cancel culture is to see people that I can show you emails from them telling me that I changed their life and then had them agree that I'm a Nazi.
They come for you. Yeah. But again, somehow it made me feel better to realize it's not unique. Yeah. It's not something unique to our culture right
Something
now.
About human nature.
It feels amplified right now, certainly. But look, there's studies, across time. There's what's the shocking one? I'm forgetting his name at the moment. And
it's Jonathan Haidt. Are you thinking of some of his work or something?
The electroshock.
Yeah. I don't. It's in my book, and I'm old.
I remember. I know what story you're talking about.
There's a Stanford prison experiment. Like most people will do as they are told.
Right.
They will obey authority, and they will feel it. They'll do it even more so and more intensely if they get to feel virtuous when they do it, like what you're describing, Brett. Yeah. And I think there's a percentage of people that see that it's wrong and just go along. I think there's a decent percentage that
don't see
get real excited about it.
Yeah. But I'm following you guys. I'm tracking with you. But here's what's kind of blowing my mind in all this. We have like Riley Gaines was just at San Francisco. We had 15 years ago. Could you imagine that a guy could say he's a woman? Just rearrange, do a couple surgeries.
Moving fast.
Really fast, right?
Yeah.
And then 15 years before that, I just think of like this, the sexual revolution in our country, and it was slow. Things were happening, divorce rates were going up, stuff like that. Sexual revolution was happening, but then like this last 15 years, it just
unraveled.
Yeah, the California high-speed train, except it's still going. The California high-speed train's going nowhere.
If you don't let drag queens twerk in front of little kids, you're a hater. You're a bigot.
Yeah. You're committing trans genocide.
Well, in the observation,
unbelievable. Well, that's what's crazy about the whole Biden administration's response to the school shooting. And we had friends in that school. And you're from Nashville. Yeah. We had friends from that school. One of our pastors' friends, George Grant, who's on our network. He was in the room with the other pastor
who got the call.
This is crazy. And yet Biden's administration's response was, man, trans are feeling really hated right now, attacked right now. That's insanity.
It is insanity. We're supposed to be more concerned with the murderer than the children, the 3 children and the 3 adults murdered.
And you pick any other setup.
Yeah, black.
Oh, yeah.
And it would never,
Yeah.
ever be like this.
The other thing, observation about that to me is like, I understand that community insisting on these things. What is shocking is to watch the elite managerial class
Yes, right.
go along with it. All of Fortune 500, Fortune 100, all of Hollywood, everybody doubles down from that side. And that's the part where, like, I feel like when I grew up, there were always crazy movements. There were always ideas that were put forward, but like the adults would say, yeah, good for you, but we're not going to make everybody do that.
Right. Like, yeah, there was
adults have left the building.
Yes, no, absolutely. So there's freedom of speech. Like, yeah, you can say what you want to say and think what you want to think over there. It's America. But yeah, the adults were in the room and they said, but no, we're not. That's not what that's not going to run the show.
Right.
Yeah, and what's so unusual about it in business and corporate America in particular, I don't think any of them even believe it. They just want to be.
Yeah. I'm with you.
They don't believe it. Right. I mean, I've been in the C-suite for years. I was in the boardroom for years. They don't know what they think. They want to be liked.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're not really liked for being really rich anymore. That used to be kind of cool, and you got some status without. Now you have to disavow that privilege, and to be
virtuous.
The only chance, but they don't want to give up the money.
That's why I just stay poor. I just don't make any money.
They don't want to give up the money.
I don't have to worry about that.
Keep the money and still be celebrated, and so they do it by adopting these stances.
Whatever is the virtuous thing right now.
Yeah,
you know,
and they're cowed by their younger employees, but it's a small subset.
Right. I just want to go back to something you said earlier about the Larry Nassar thing. You said, so you wrote a book about the abuse that was happening?
Not about him. So I wrote, it's a memoir. It's a first person account of my training as an elite gymnast in the 1980s that was physically and emotionally abusive. And there was sexual abuse. The national team coach at the time, which was pre-Bella Caroli, was this guy, Don Peters, who's now banned from the sport. And he was a serial rapist.
Okay. So number one, I didn't know that. But number two, it's striking to me, though, that you've been practicing standing up for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also surprising. Here's what makes it, and this is what I tell people. If you had any idea what it was like to grow up in the environment I did in that sport, where children are seen but not heard, you know, you're wound up and you prance around and we tape you up and send you back out and you're not allowed to eat anything and you better not talk and you better not complain. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was such an intense culture of obedience that was drilled into me that if I can do it, like think about the hole I started in. It's not, I mean, my parents encouraged me to speak up, but I spent 9 hours a day in the gym. I spent more time with the coaches than my parents. Yeah. And I came out meek and quiet, and it's hard for me, but I'm not going to further a lie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look they're looking us in the eye and they're telling us this thing that is patently false that you can see with your own eyes.
Right. Yeah.
That men can be women and women can be men, that, you know, school-age children are going to die en masse from COVID if we open the schools, and there's no such thing as learning loss and no one's going to be harmed, so just stay home and stay. I can see with my own eyes. It doesn't take much imagination. I'm not going to further a lie.
Right.
I'm just not going to do it.
Right before we started recording, we were kind of talking about the COVID thing, and like, you know, I think all of us, I think, had at least a few minutes of thinking, like, what is this? And, you know, is this the bubonic plague? And, you know, what's you did never, not even for a minute. Oh, well, the rest of us, normal people.
I had it. I was full.
But
for a bit.
Well, I mean,
I understand that most people had a week or two.
But it was, I mean, and I mean, part of, you know, I had questions right off, but it was, you know, I'm climate scare tactics, you know, the same Imperial College does a lot of the same
they do.
Modeling for the climate folks. And so I saw that right away and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Anyways, so, but what was it for you? I mean, okay, apparently you never got there, but maybe Brett, maybe when was it the slam dunk though, where you were like, okay, this is a scam? I mean, you said it was a bad joke earlier. But I like it was a really mean joke. It was awful. It was an awful joke. But when was it like that? It was like slam dunk. Okay, this is a scam.
Walked out in my backyard. My neighbor, who's Mr. Doubt, the skeptic, he's like, looks at me one day as I'm all freaked out and goes, "This whole thing's a scam." And his wife pulls up, getting off an airline as a stewardess at like 60. "Hey, Brad, like that. I'm like, what is Evelyn doing on a plane at 60 with COVID going around? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that was one clue.
When is
was
this?
that?
When
This
is this?
about like 3 months in. Then my neighbor.
Was that like March 2020 or
He's
April?
saying like April, June.
June? Okay, June
Maybe
2020.
sometime.
Might have been before that. It may have been like May. Then my neighbors.
Because we're all going to get virtue points after
This
this.
is-
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
There's like 3 things. Then my neighbors all get it. I'm out front. And I'm like, what was it like? What was it? And they're like, I got like a mild fever. And I'm like, then what happened? They're like, it was like mild. I didn't really know I had it.
Yeah.
And their son is a Major League Baseball player. His girlfriend, I guess, gave it to everybody.
Yeah.
Then Newsom put all these RVs. Nobody knows about this. Down in El Segundo, like 1,000 RVs or 150. I don't know. It was a lot of RVs. Just like the hospital.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Like the hospital ship on New York.
Empty. They were all
Yeah.
empty.
Nobody filled them up. And all of a sudden, and then I go on a vacation for the summer vacation. I'm driving along and I noticed that nobody else in the West is acting crazy like California. Like
Right.
every state is looser. And I started to go, this is like a cultural thing.
Right.
I'm inside of like a cult.
Cool. Yeah.
And I didn't know it. And then once I got to tell you, that red pilled me so hard.
Yeah.
I'm as red pilled as they come at this point.
Were you a liberal Christian before that, or?
No.
No, I went to John MacArthur's church.
Oh, yeah. You're
okay.
Probably the right of you.
Yeah. No, we're still to the right of him. We're in northern Idaho, man.
But to your point, I could flow with someone like Jen really well.
Yeah.
I worked in that world as a Christian. I liked my progressive friends, and I enjoyed being
But Jen's
around
not
them.
really progressive anymore.
Well, my point is I liked the free spirited
Does she have
nature.
any progressive cards left?
He's saying you would have liked me before.
Oh, okay.
She wear jeans.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Well, she worked for Levi's. She had to.
But I just mean like free spirited. They're not agency world, marketing world like Levi's. It's like the people are fun. It's a fun environment.
Well, old school liberalism was actually all about being kind of free and like, hey, everybody's welcome and let's get along. And even if we differed over God and Christ and the Bible and things like
philosophy,
that, there was, we used to get along.
That very well, the open-mindedness of you believe what you believe, and I believe.
And we
what
can
I
have
believe.
we can
Liberals are very much that way,
and we can have a sane, reasonable conversation about these things, and have a glass of wine and enjoy each other's company and not hate each other,
and not think the other person's evil.
Right.
Okay, so one of my favorite. Do you want to finish that?
Can I just finish one thing?
No, that's good.
Jennifer said she was never fooled, and I want to know why.
It's a really good question. I think part of it is because my husband and I agreed. I mean, if he'd been saying, "Okay, Jen, you got to stay home," or you got to wash the groceries, or you got to but from the beginning, we just looked at each other and we were like, "This is bullshit." Am I allowed to curse on a Christian show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when you're talking about
As a
COVID,
non-Christian
yes.
We should all be a little.
The
angry.
median age of death in the very beginning, remember Italy and that was all happening, it was 82.
Right. Yeah. And you're like,
Princess
when do people
we had
normally
that data,
die?
and that data was coming back in like February, March, like
That's
early
right.
on.
It was like March. It was already like 80s. It was already over the average
remember
life
that. Yeah.
expectancy.
Right. Like people die
So,
at 82.
They already got extra here. I mean, I don't mean to laugh about people dying. I'm not being dismissive, but it just didn't add up to me from the beginning that it was this like horrifically deadly thing that we had to shut the world down for. And so I just started reading, and there were people from the beginning that you could find, John Ioannidis and Martin Kulldorff, and there were people from the very beginning who were saying, wait a minute. And then I started diving into the CDC pre-pandemic playbook, which said you never shut schools for more than a few weeks, even with a infection fatality rate far higher. And then, so there was that. There was the, okay, I'm not scared.
Yeah.
And then there was, this is wrong anyway.
Right. Even if it really was something.
Well, if
this
it
is not what you're supposed to
really
do.
was so dangerous to everybody, and the fear tactics just became so obvious the more data I read. The fear mongering became more and more obvious. But then I just got to the point where I was like, even if it were more dangerous, everybody would stay home because they chose it.
Right.
And you cannot shut churches, shut schools. You cannot tell people who they can have in their homes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
It's
insanity.
just wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It's a constitutional violation, and beyond that, it's wrong.
Right.
And people in San Francisco, I'm sure it was this way in LA too, Brett. I mean, They were told if you see something, say something. There were special phone numbers set up. If somebody had people in their house and they saw them going in, they would snitch. There's a church in Santa Clara County. I don't know if you've read about this, the piece that David Zweig wrote. It's madness. We had my family, once we were finally told we were allowed to go out to the park in June, we were allowed to go outside. You couldn't mix households, though.
Right.
So you could go out one household outside, which again never passed the common sense test that we shouldn't be outside.
Is this in Denver? Were you in Denver or California?
I was in San Francisco.
That's right.
So I'm in the park with my 4 children.
Right.
We are, a big family for San Francisco.
Yep.
Don't look like one household. My 2 older children are mixed race. My younger children are not. Someone called the cops on us that we were a mixed household. We had to show ID to prove that we all lived together.
So,
and I could see her off in the side. I was like, that woman's calling. I see her over there. She's doing it right now.
Yeah.
And she was so smug and confident that
suddenly,
omnipotent moral busybodies is what they are.
Yeah, that's it. Isn't that C.S. Lewis? That's the C.S. Lewis quote. And suddenly they know what a family is.
That's right. Well, they have to be told what a family is.
Define it anyway.
Well, and how racist is that? Because we did the math's not that hard to figure out how my family looks the way it looks. It's not that hard to figure out.
Right. Yeah.
So, we're in Idaho, a conservative state. But if Andrew hadn't told you about Moscow, we're in liberal la la land. I mean, we're a cult.
It's a blue dot.
It's a liberal cult.
You guys know I graduated from University of Idaho.
No,
really?
Hey, so did I. Go Vandals! Yeah, I know. Sorry, Jen.
Last week we didn't have guests here, and we actually had Joe Vandal poster sitting in your seat.
Where Knox was,
because we were missing Knox.
So,
but
is that because it's a university?
It's a university town surrounded by farm fields, and so we're controlled by this liberal cult in town, and our governor's not strong. He's not a strong conservative at all. He governs by corporate wishes. In March, it was March 2020. I think it was March 20th or 25th. I forget the dates. Our mayor shut down downtown before we had even one COVID case in town. Shut our friends' businesses down. Use the cops to threaten force of shutdown and all that stuff. It was just the craziest thing. So no COVID cases in 2020. And then in March 2020, and then the 5 days later, the governor signed some sort of health emergency act also, and so it's a statewide quarantine is basically what it is, which was illegal. Our state allows for quarantine, but only quarantining the sick.
Not the healthy.
You can't quarantine the healthy. That's always been the case. You didn't quarantine the healthy.
Goes all the way back to Leviticus, actually.
To the
God
Bible.
said
He's quarantining the sick. Okay, and then in July 1st. Our city council voted in this resolution playing off the March 20th resolution saying if you're outside, you had to wear a mask where you couldn't stand 6 feet apart.
Right.
So, and then they did the whole park thing. In fact, a lady and her kids, she got arrested down in Boise area. You might have followed a little bit of that story for going to a park with her kids, and she refused to leave. And they had caution tape around the parks in our town.
Yeah, we used to jump the
caution.
The playgrounds. The playgrounds in San Francisco were closed 9 months.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
In a city where no one has a yard.
Right.
Even if you have a really nice apartment like I did, nobody has a yard.
Well, didn't they also fill out in California, they filled in a skate park with sand?
Okay, this is what
they brought in a bunch of sand to a skate park.
Not one. They arrested people for surfing. The beaches were closed.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
People got arrested in Santa Cruz for surfing.
Yeah.
The basketball courts outside boarded up or they took the hoops down entirely. Skate parks filled with sand, but you could play golf.
Oh, golf.
Crazy. Yeah. That's because Newsom liked to play golf and drink wine, so that was legal.
So can I ask a question, though? Because I'd be curious what you guys think. So if you asked why in the blue areas did it go down that way and then red? And my one answer would be the blue team is much more obedient to the government, let's just say. But I don't think that's the reason why. I actually think, and I'm just curious what you guys think about this, fear drove a lot of that. Mm-hmm. Why is the blue team so fearful and the red seem less fearful? They would say because we're dumb. The red people are dumb.
Right.
They don't get that they're going to die.
Right.
But I'm curious to you guys.
But you're dumb, so you don't really care about dying either.
Yeah, it's dumb. So why is the blue team, or maybe you don't even agree, I don't know what you think, Jen, but why was the blue team, because this gets to a kind of a fundamental thing about life. You guys are everywhere there's blue, there's complete parallel. I just got off a plane in Seattle, and I said I'm back among the masked people.
Yeah.
And they haven't come out of it still. Like a lot of them.
No.
Really?
Some of them
You'll still see people around town. You go into stores here in town, they'll still be wearing masks.
I'm trying to understand what's going on beneath that.
I got just a quick stab at that. First of all, I don't think the leadership is fearful. I think the leadership uses fear. Both on the conservative and liberal side.
And to be clear, in the beginning, everybody was all in. Red, blue, otherwise. I mean,
well, Kristi Noem owns the Kristi Noem
you're
story.
right. Kristi Noem.
No. She was trying to shut down her state. Her legislator session kept.
They were actually the ones that didn't let her.
I mean, no one said from the beginning what Sweden did, and even Sweden had more restrictions than I think were appropriate. But the elementary schools never closed, etc.
That's
But as a generalization, you're right. I mean, everybody had at least a little bit of like, okay, what is this?
But as time went on, though, one seemed to drift off it, and one
They
side
did
doubled down.
by the summer, fall, and then when DeSantis took the lead and said, and he was cautious at first, and he would say that it's because, I mean, they have a very old population. He was reading the data. There's a lot of people at risk in Florida. Very old.
No, seriously.
But then once he kind of got his arms around it, he was like, we're not going to do this anymore. But no one from the beginning said, this is wrong.
Yeah. Right. So while I think the both sides use power, I think the leftists are far more about power plays right now than conservatives are. Not that conservatives won't use it. They'll use, but I think the leftists right now, their play is just like raw power grabbing. And that's, to be honest, I don't know how Joe Biden won an election, campaigning from his basement.
But my point, I don't disagree with you, but why does one group of people not buy the narrative and one does wholesale? I mean, there's still people are trying to tell me
conservatives
that I need to be very careful and get my 15th booster.
Conservatives are still coasting off some sort of historic relationship with God that liberals don't have. So I think this is a very spiritual, clearly spiritual. You have eyes to see, ears to hear. And conservatives are still coasting off this, whatever semblance of Christian faith conservatives have, where the liberals have totally full on rejected God.
But then you look at somebody like
in
Jennifer
favor of the science, which has become their religion, and they think they can beat death, they can overcome sex assigned
biology,
everything,
nature.
Come on, you just cussed earlier. You can say it. So it's really easy.
But this idea of and there is a difference. I think you're totally right between the leaders who are sort of like concocting this whole sort of direction and the folks who follow and who were legitimately afraid and who didn't question. There's a difference, right? But everybody did move in the same direction. And I think in the beginning, for those leading the charge, I thought in the beginning, and I was wrong, but I think it was part of it, the Democrats wanted to position themselves as good and caring and win the election in November.
Yeah.
That was like,
that's true.
That was part of the strategy. I really believe that, but here's where I was naive, is I thought, okay, then once if he went, no, I didn't think that. But I thought once if, Biden wins, they'll let it go and he'll declare COVID over, or he'll do it in the early spring of 21 so that he can declare the victory.
Yeah.
But it was too much a part of their identity at that point. It was too much in the ether. They couldn't get it back. They were committed to this. It was like a way for them, they felt, to have the moral high ground that they've been looking to find for so long. And I think the absence of a religion, and I'm not a religious person, so I'm going to say this as an atheist.
Yeah.
There's like a hole in their hearts, and they, you've got to fill it with something. You want to believe in something. You want to be part of something. You want to believe in something that's bigger than yourself, and they have no purpose, and they're filling it with this garbage.
Man, she's a great apologist. We should. We should
she says I'm not an atheist.
But I'm just chime in. I think I agree. I think fear is huge. I think this goes back to the conversation before about courage and the nobody wants to stand up. Nobody wants to. You want to keep your head down. Yeah. You want to, and I think it's a human nature thing. And I think we are afraid. I think ultimately of dying. I think we're afraid of eternity. We're afraid of meeting God or whatever is after death. And I think we're afraid fundamentally because we know we're frail creatures. We're guilty. We failed. We've made mistakes. And the Bible calls that guilt, and that guilt makes you even more afraid because you can't stand up. And I think in that you scramble for security. You scramble for that hole, and you have to find it somewhere. And I think historically, most people find it in a kind of collective. You find your identity, your meaning, your safety in some kind of collective. You call it maybe community or whatever, but it's like, you feel braver and stronger because you agree with me. I agree. You agree with me. Okay. And we're all together. And then if you have a strong leadership of that collective that says, it's okay, everyone's doing fine, you're doing the right thing, you're doing good.
You are the good people.
You're the good people. I mean, the biblical name for that is justification, right? So like everybody's looking for a kind of justification that I am right. And, the Bible says there, that there's a particular kind of justification by faith in Christ where God says that you're right, you're absolved of your sins because of Christ, not because you're good, not because you're right, because Jesus was right and he died and rose again from the dead. But I think everybody is hunting for a kind of justification. And I think right now, particularly, the state is the great collective, and that's it's Marxism kind of coming to bear its fruits, but it's saying that this is basically, since they've argued there is no God, all there is this, and if that's the case, then what you're left with is people, human societies trying to be as strong and powerful as they can. And, a kind of might makes right ultimately is going to emerge from that because, if there is no God, then the highest thing you have in this world is functionally your God. Yeah. Even if you don't say you believe in a God.
Your governor, your president, your
whatever the highest power is, whatever, just like maybe it's Fauci. Don't say that.
Conversely, it doesn't explain everybody because obviously Jennifer got it before a lot of us. But as a Christian, and I happen to be a Christian, if you sign up to follow Jesus Christ, the opening bargain that you strike is that you're going to stand out as different in the world.
That's right.
Get ready. You're not only not going to stand, you're going to actually be hated. Do you understand? That's the agreement going into this. This is the right path, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
And so if you mean it, because a lot of people just, I'm a Christian. Like, you didn't do that business with Jesus. Like where this means wherever you go.
You're not taking up a cross and following.
Right. I'm a captive to you. Right. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it.
Right. And to be clear, there were a bunch of evangelical Christians that just went, they folded and they closed their churches down. And
because I think we found, and I'm not saying that's a litmus test of your Christianity if you got it wrong. I'm saying over time, during this period of time of what I would call totalitarianism or whatever you want to call this, cancel culture, as a Christian, if you have developed that idea and understood that you already stood out. You already got used to being the one in the candid camera elevator that was faced the one way with 20 people going this way. Because that's like the opening of the show Chosen, the fish is swimming upstream.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain everybody because Jennifer Says obviously got there before us on COVID, or at least me for sure.
And to your point, I've been thinking about this a lot for years. What is it about the people that sort of saw it and didn't go along and were willing to take risks? Like I totally hear you, but most of the Christians went along too.
A lot of them
the libertarians, WTF? I mean, this was your moment. Honestly,
you're not wrong.
I know like two that actually stayed true to their principles.
And they were smoking weed. That's why they did it. Just leave me alone.
This is perfect. We just let them do it.
Yeah, they didn't. They closed everything in San Francisco. They threatened to close the dispensaries, and people went mad.
That was
they
too
went
far.
insane. That was a bridge too far. Yeah, that was a bridge too far. So,
but what do you think? I mean, what is your answer?
Well, I think everybody got scared, and fear makes you behave in very strange ways, and that's why there was a pre-pandemic playbook that was written when we could be rational,
when we were clear,
and not when you're clear-headed, and everybody threw it out the window. And I don't think it's one thing. I think it's a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of complexity. And I think you had some. I do think the election contributed to it. I think Trump drove people mad, and the division started.
He pushed the vaccine, and he was the vaccine guy.
Yes, but before that,
thank you for that. The vaccine that didn't work, but he did not. He shut down too. He listened to Fauci and Birx. He
100%.
So there's a lot of different factors. So there was already this division that was pretty intense, which meant anytime Trump says do something, you have to position yourself in opposition to him. I mean, that's kind of part of what made it really bad for me. Everyone in my workplace was calling me a Trumper. I didn't vote for the man. But it was like if he said schools needed to open. So
opposite.
Do you remember?
Right.
He said it in June or July. I can't really remember. The American Academy of Pediatrics just 2 weeks earlier had said schools need to open. Yeah. He said schools need to open, and they were like, "Oh, didn't mean it. I'm taking. We
now
gotta
you're
take
a Trumper.
that. Yeah. Now you're a Trumper."
Wow.
So there is this intent. He is like all that is evil from the lefties, and you have to position yourself in direct opposition to him.
Right.
Fauci doing God knows what and why.
Just all that.
All of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors, and some people are still clinging to all of it.
Yeah. I've got an ad to read, and I think we're done.
We're done.
We're done. That's more than 28 minutes.
We're going to read the ad at the end of the show.
I'm really sure. Yes.
Yeah.
So one more plug for Grace Agenda. I don't know if they're actually sold out yet, but Grace Agenda is the conference here in Moscow, Idaho, in August.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the dates here, but it's in August.
12th,
Look it up.
12th.
GraceAgenda.com. The theme this year is good education in the Badlands. So a focus on Christian education and the importance of Christian parents bringing up their children to fear God and love the world that He made according to His word. So check it out. Registration's almost full. It may already be full. I hope this isn't false advertising. Go to GraceAgenda.com today because there was like hundreds of people already signed up a couple days ago. So sign up today.
Thank you guys for coming to the studio. We didn't get to a chance to talk about Generation COVID. This is your documentary coming out.
Oh yeah.
Give us like a 60-second pitch on this doc.
Yeah. Making a documentary, almost done filming. It's about the kids impacted by the harms of school closures and other restrictions. The kids are not all right. We've been reading about it. It's not just learning loss. It's mental health impact. There's violence in the schools. They're not able to reintegrate. Absenteeism is at an all-time high, which is going to, guess what, lead to dropouts.
Yep.
An all-time high. This generation is going to be impacted by it, and those responsible want to sweep it under the rug, and I don't want to let them.
So what's it called again?
Generation COVID.
Yeah, it's striking to me too. Just like a couple of days ago, my daughter was just mentioning something about a book that the kids had all read going through. I think it was 6th or 7th grade, and she says, "Oh, that was my COVID year." And just in passing, because she was like, "Oh yeah, we didn't read it that year because that was my COVID year." And I was just like, "Oh wow, that's something that like." So we were only closed for like
2 or 3 weeks or something.
Well, our Christian school here was closed for like 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah. And then it reopened right away.
And she still calls it
But she still has a COVID year.
Yeah.
Imagine if she was in her room for 18 months.
Right, I know. That's a really good point, Jennifer.
Our kids came home and homeschooled for 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, it was like 4 weeks because my wife's a teacher there. She had to do online. It was like 5 or 6 weeks. I don't know what it was. We went back in 2020 and then back in fall and we did normal.
These kids were isolated alone in places like New York, Connecticut, San Francisco, Oakland. They were in their rooms. There's one student in the film, he didn't leave the house for a year.
My goodness.
That's insane. Yeah.
They're not okay.
They're not okay. Yeah. Thanks for working on that.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show. Great to meet you, Brett. Great to have you guys.
And Brett oversaw one of my favorite Dr. Pepper marketing campaigns.
Really?
Fanville.
Oh, Fansville.
Yes.
This week on Fansville.
Yes. There you go. There we go. Know what I'm saying?
On a very special Fansville.
You know what he does with Dr. Pepper? He smokes cigars and drinks Dr. Pepper. He's like, that's how you do it.
I love that drink.
So good.
Yeah.
It's made in Texas, the promised land. I mean, how could you not? Hey, if you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbors yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
Knox, come back.
Please. I don't do the closing.
It is the duty of the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ .06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.
Do you smell that? I hope you're not used to it. I'm talking about that vicious, eye-burning, skin-peeling smell that surrounds all of us. The smell of proxy wars with overtones of the parties in Hunter Biden's photos, feminism, trans madness, faux pandemic, real panic, climate tyranny, social media slavery, Epstein's suicide, fair elections with hints of brimstone charred oak, and the Pelosi's stock profits, all stewing in a Houston Planned Parenthood's dumpster in August. That is the smell of the thing we once called America, dead and composting. The post-mortem on America isn't complicated. First founded by starving pilgrims and slaves, refugees and immigrants crying out to God for deliverance, this nation was pitched like a tent by men and women struggling in the mud and the dust, who survived drought and depression, and twice left home to bleed and die and save the world. Yes, there was hypocrisy, pietism, self-righteousness, injustice. But this land became strong despite it all by God's grace and by the sacrifice of farm boys crawling up foreign beaches in the sweat of their fathers, tilling soil and feeding beef. American boys tamed the sky and walked in space. We touched the world with our Navy, our love of sports and stories, underdogs and barbecue. And now, we touch it all with our rot. The greatest nation in history has been laid low by one simple evil: lies. The deadliest was the first, the lie that our greatness was our own doing, and so many more came after. The lies of secularism, moral neutrality, and self-fulfillment, of feminism and Marxism, the lies of the sexual revolution and evolution, pointless wars and taxation, inflation and a manipulated currency, the lies that lashed out at God, tearing away at our belief in beauty, goodness, and truth, the lies that sought to place our own lusts and the lusts of our masters on God's throne, lies to control, to placate, and to destroy. The storm of lies has reached hurricane force now. Whole states are being evacuated. The deception swirls so fast and furious that the liars don't even bother to hide it. Question: where do lies get their power? Answer: from the idiocy of the deceived. How many lies can a people believe before it's their own fault? 1, 2, 44,000? Lies lose all their power when the deceived become wise, when their minds are no longer easy to bridle and control, when they learn to think and can seek the truth through any fog, and when they learn to laugh at those lies. The winds will reverse, the fog will clear. Do not despair. These are the times we were given. We are the people God made for this moment. The faithful and the undeceived will rebuild in the ruins, and we will do it singing, feasting, loving, and laughing. We will plant again, and we will harvest 30, 60, and 100-fold. After all, composting empires make the richest soil. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for lovers of truth. Laughing at lies since 1994.